Okay, so I promised you guys a Q&A, and lo and behold, I actually have questions. Um, 9 of these that I have are from one person, Heaven Smealing, of whom I have technically known since 2002, even though she doesn't remember until 2003. First question. What is it like being a mother and working a job? Uh, well, that's interesting. See, in our house, it's me, my husband, my dad, and the baby. My dad lives with us. He actually watches her most of the time, but when I have time, I try to spend with her, like I am at the moment. She's currently asleep. I gave her a bath, a shower, and changed her. Being a mom is actually a full-time thing. Even if the baby's asleep or even if you're at a friend's house, you're still on mommy duty. It's just not as direct. I love it. I loved being around kids when I was growing up and babysitting and stuff like that, especially with my nieces. So I already had a good bit of stuff along those lines under my belt. So it wasn't really a whole lot more of adjustment. It was mainly just the fact that, she's here all the time and there's no giving back to a parent at the end of the day. But I like it a lot. It can be tiring at times and very trying on your patience, but it's nice. Okay, question number 2. What is your job? Well, before a bunch of us got laid off yesterday, I was a picker at Ascena. What that entails is, okay, you go to Ascena, you clock in, you scan your badge, and scan this deal on a computer, and that's so that, the work task force can track your progress, which is actually pretty handy. You go upstairs, you get your RF holder, you get your RF scanner, scan your badge, scan the little password thing, or if you finally have your own password, you plug that in. Go and check your task assignment. There's S through U up, or no, S through V up there, but only S's and T's are usable at the moment. Recently I'd been stuck in the S's for a while. And the way it's set, like the past few days I had one tasking group, SL9, which meant I would punch that in, and that would mean that I would be pulling items from aisles S17 and 18. And to do that, see, what you do is you go in, I'm trying to remember this from memory, which isn't really that hard, but see, once you scan your badge, it'll ask you inbound, outbound, and some other thing. You hit 2 and then enter, and then on the next screen, I believe, you plug in T and then hit enter, and that's so you can go to your tasks, plug in your task, and then hit enter, and it'll bring you back to that other screen. You'll hit 1 to pull a tote, and you'll need to scan your cart, and it'll let you know if there's any tasks, like if a wave's open. If there is, it'll say that, and then you'll need to grab 4 totes. Do not scan your totes before you get them on your cart, because people pull from them all the time, and if your totes go down and you lose track, you're screwed. So you pull 4 totes, because your cart has an upper level and a lower level, and 2 totes will fit on that. The closest one to you on top is your first one, the next one over is your second, the one underneath closest to is your third, and then the other is your fourth. And after you get those, you plug in S and then hit enter, and it'll just tell you what to do. you scan the location, scan the item, plug in how many you're supposed to be pulling, and actually put those in the tote, and then you'll scan your tote and it'll send you to the next place. And that's basically the gist of picking. It can be a little bit tedious, but most of the time it was actually quite upbeat, fast. You can push yourself to work faster, get your tasks done faster, stuff like that. Sometimes we got sent to VAS, which was basically when you come through the doors and you go through the whole, sign-in process. Like, you go in, and then you make a right, go through there, go back through those doors, go down a little bit, make a left, just keep going down and go through another set of doors, and that's VAS. Big pallets of boxes come in, and we have to sort through them. So what you do, you open the box, check and see sizes, color, everything has to be sorted out. You can only group the same things of the same thing. There's different sizes of boxes and stuff. If the SKU labels, which is what we scan upstairs, and I think even what they scan at the company when it's shipped out, if those are already on there, then, put on the information on the box, tape it up, stack it on a pallet, keep the stuff together, and you're good to go. If it doesn't have those, you can either have the SKU labels printed out, or you write on the box, no SKU, do not tape the box, and it goes on a pallet, and then, you're still good to go. So, yeah, that was my job, and I loved it. Okay, so, third question, did childbirth hurt? Yeah, I knew someone was going to ask that eventually. Yes and no. I actually, when I was still working at Walmart, left a few times thinking I was going into labor because the cramps were bad enough that I thought I was contracting, including the day that I was supposed to give birth, which was actually my last working day at Walmart on the first half of the time I was there. See, I ended up being induced. I was due June 28th, which was a Saturday, and I actually ended up giving birth on July 1st, which was a Tuesday. And what they do is they inject this little deal, I think. I'm trying to remember. I was kind of loopy through part of this. And then after a bit, depending on how you're dilating, they break your water. Because mine didn't break on its own. They broke my water. And at first you just feel this trickle, and then it literally feels like you're peeing your pants. Like, it seriously feels like you're pissing. And you pretty much just have to lay there on the hospital bed through this. And I mean, as soon as the water starts coming through, you will feel contractions. Really bad, really fast, really hard. And you literally don't stop breathing. Keep breathing through them, because if you stop, it just makes it that much worse, and you start to panic, you get panic breathy, and that can cause some complications. See, you can ask for an epidural, and before that, you can even get what's called Pitocin. And I got the Pitocin. It got to the point where I was screaming. I actually cussed out Kenny once, only once, and I apologized right after the contraction. But see, there was the hospital bed, there was a chair, and then there was a couch, and the chair rocked, and it had a backrest with a little headrest or a head cushion on it, and I was facing the chair, hands on the armrest, forehead against the headrest. I was screaming bloody murder. I looked over at Kenny. I said, "I fucking hate you!" Oh, yeah, that was interesting. They put the Pitocin in, and I was so loopy. I was griping about why SpongeBob was screaming so loud. Yeah. and that started to wear off, and then, cramps were getting worse, and they asked if I wanted the epidural, and I said yes. And when they put in the epidural, you cannot get out of bed, and you can't really move anyway, so they have to insert a catheter, which is, for women, it's when they insert a little tube into your woo-hoo, and so that you're not, pissing all over yourself. A lot more painful for men, as I've heard. But in any event, now, what scared me because of my back condition is that they insert this needle into your spine. Yeah, the epidural goes into your spine. And see, I was freaking out because, when the doctor, male nurse, whoever exactly it was, when the guy came in to put the epidural in, the nurse that had been there, I can't remember her name, and I wish I could, she stayed 3 hours after her shift just to make sure that I was calm enough and okay before she left. And I did 2 of their little letters of recommendation or whatever that you can fill out before you leave. I filled out 2 on her, 2 separate ones. But anyways, she calmed me down, and right before the guy put the needle in, I told her, hang on, because I felt a contraction. Oh, I was screaming, I was panicking. I said, okay, it's over. Put it in. He put the needle in, that, got the painkillers going, and oh my god, I slept. But what's weird when you get that done is you can feel the contractions without the pain. Oh my god. I know I described like when a baby moves inside of your uterus, the closest sensation I could describe or comparison was like the Alien vs. Predator movie and like the Alien movies, where that thing is moving around inside of you, but instead of it being in your chest and coming out in an explosive and killer way, it's in your uterus, and it's not, hopefully hell-bent on killing you and your race. But no, it's a sensation, it's undescribable unless you've been through it. So being able to feel the contractions without the pain was very interesting. Yeah. And then, when I went from 7 centimeters dilated to 10 in about an hour, and doctor said, okay, it's time. My dad and my husband stayed in the hospital room with. Everybody else went to the lobby or waiting room or whatever, and it was showtime. And I mean, it went from, them telling me how to do it to me telling them when the contraction was coming, right before it showed up on the monitor. And Kenny, he actually got to catch, which is where the father or doctor, whoever, actually helps to guide the baby out when they're starting to come out. The painkiller was just starting to wear off when that little girl's head was coming out. It didn't exactly hurt so much as it did burn a little bit, because, I mean, your skin in and of itself and your body will only expand to a certain point. That's why we get stretch marks and such. Well, not to answer this in a really uncomfortable way, but sometimes you can't have a baby without ripping. And Kenny got to see this happen, and I feel bad for him because I didn't, and I saw the after effects, and oh my god. But I guess when Aaron's head was starting to come out, my doctor, she took her finger and went around like that around the baby's head to kind of spread things out a little bit so she wasn't cramped, and all you could hear was just pop, 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 pop. Whew. I could not imagine doing that without the epidural, and I don't want to. But once her head was out and her shoulders, it was just a breeze getting her through, and it was exhausting. You gotta catch your breath, and I mean, I first saw her, I knew I was gonna cry, but damn, I bawled like a baby. Yeah, it was intense. So that explains kind of two things there actually. Did childbirth hurt? Somewhat. And also what it's like to go through it. At least what it was for me. Okay, number 4. What is your home life like? Well, as at least you know, Heaven, we moved. Hang on a second, I gotta get my power cord. Okay, let me kind of restart on this question because that took longer than I thought and I don't know where I left off. So, number 4, what is my home life like? As I probably already mentioned, we moved back around the 1st of September. And there's me, my dad, Aaron, and my husband, and of course our little dog Trevor. He's 11 years old and a wonderful puppy, and Aaron adores him and he adores her. Honestly, I mean, we have arguments, we have our laughs, we have our fun moments, the weird, wacky, what the hell just happened moments. Just kind of a family. Sorry, I've got something on the back of my neck and the top of this crick in my neck. There we go. It was just kind of bugging me. Oh, that was different. Just kind of, I guess she had one of those moments in her sleep. I don't know. But, anyways, a home life, let me put it this way. A lot of kind of the crud I put my dad and myself through, and my grandpa when he was alive, when I was a kid and growing up, and even a teenager and adolescent, and even some of the stuff that was going on when I moved out, and some of the difficulties I was having personally, despite having help from some friends of mine. Some friends that I stayed with for 5 months, some that I stayed with for 2, and then moving back into my dad's. And to the friends of mine that allowed me to stay with, I am forever grateful for what you did for me. And wish that, especially in the moment, I had done more to show my gratitude. And in time, I hope I find a way that I'll be able to, aside from just saying thank you. But, home life is a lot better than it had been. And definitely a lot better than it could be. She just farted in her sleep. But, that one's a little bit difficult to explain. Number 5, do you still draw or write songs? That one I did not see coming. Writing songs, not so much in a way that you might understand. Songs, no, but poems, yes, but in a weird way, actually. I have actually been writing in Druidic runes. Now, a lot of time like, say in the movie, How to Train Your Dragon. The runes you see are not druidic, they are Nordic. But what I write in is druidic runes. A friend of mine actually used to do this a lot, and to a degree still does. And I asked for some of the symbols, and she actually gave me a full alphabet. And I took quite an interest in it. As far as the drawing comes, I actually found a little new way to do that, where you just, get a piece of paper, pen, pencil, whatever, drop a few items on it, let them land where they lay, and when I do it, I look like I'm going cross-eyed, but what it is for me is a quick focus out, focus in, gives a small headache. She's waking up. Hold that thought. But, okay, back to what I was saying before. You drop a few pieces of something on a piece of paper, and basically just kind of let your mind go nuts. One of my most recent works with that was this. Was quite proud of it, actually. See, what I see in it is more of like a bird-like humanoid. One that I did, I think it was actually yesterday during lunch. Lunch or one of my 15-minute breaks, but I think it was actually lunch. It's hard to see the third eye. And this is from a side view, and this was just using a quarter, a penny, and one of the little snap pieces, because my old badge broke, the holder. So it was the metal piece that I used, and I just dropped that down on there, and I made this. Yep. And the deals here, that's his, this is his right foot, this is his left, and it's kind of crooked back, because this is his toes splayed out, and then kind of like the little dew claw here, and then his foot is kind of angled back the other way, and he's kind of crying. And if you look here, you can actually see his third eye. A little bit of hair on the tuft, shaved on one side, long on the other. And it's pretty easy to do if you have an open mind. I did that with pen. I didn't have a pencil on hand, so I was actually quite pleased with how it came out, because I was terrified I was going to ruin it, because usually that's that's what happens when I do stuff like that. Just kind of how it goes. Okay. Question number 6. Are you close to making a book? Well, Heaven, that is a very disappointing thing for me to actually have to answer, because of my answer to it. I've had, as you probably remember, I've had a lot of trouble with trying to actually finish any of mine. I have a few finished up on Amoeba. Hi, sweet pea. Hi, honey. She's in her little bouncy thing, and I'm trying to keep her happy. She's fed and changed. I have a really big thing with writer's block, which is why I don't dare pursue this professionally, except for maybe as an on-the-side thing. So as of yet, no. Number 7. What do you believe in? Oh, Heaven, you asked a very dangerous question. Okay, I'm actually a deist. Well, deist, I don't actually know how you're supposed to pronounce it, but I believe in more than one thing. Now, as many of you know, I've been a Baptist Christian for most of my life, and to a degree still am. But Wicca is also a part of my beliefs, and I've also looked at many other things, including some of the ancient Egyptian faith, when it comes to the gods and the goddesses, and found out some very interesting things. Now, keep in mind, I have no problem with anyone's religion or lack of. Everybody's entitled to, whatever they believe in, whether it's religion or just what color their eyes tell them something is, which is why you hear people say something looks black, blue, or purple all the time. But one thing that I kind of found amusing, or two things actually, is, a very, very big common thing that you hear is the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Before even the prophecies of Christ, there was the Mother, the Maiden, and the Crone with Wicca. The Mother being, just the Mother in general, which is the mid-stage. The Maiden being her daughter, and the Crone being the older woman. Like the Father, the Son, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, the embodiment of Christianity and the belief. And, things like that. And like with ancient Egyptian faith, Horus, he was the sun god, he was the son of Ra, and he had 12 disciples, was killed, and arose 3 days later. And, little things like that you notice as you kind of look around. And, I can't say for sure what is and isn't valid when it comes to things like that, nor do I really intend to or really care to. So, when you look at something, don't do it blindly. Like how almost no branch of Christianity ever brings up Lilith. She was the woman before Eve. She refused to be his subservient and was basically damned, which is why a lot of the time nowadays you hear about her being the first immortal, one of the first true immortals. In some references, she's looked at as the first vampire. An immortal, a lot of people have a big misconception. Immortal means to not die and to not be able to be killed. And eternal can be killed by something, but without a cause of their death, they will live forever. An immortal cannot die nor be killed. So there's a very big misconception on what it means to be immortal. Yes, I know, you're wanting to say hi too. Yes, oh, you're even waving, aren't you? Oh, sorry. So, what do I believe in? I believe in basically what amounts to what I can relate with. Everybody looks to a higher power. There are different names for different things. There are some religions where it is blasphemy, if you will, to believe in more than one god or goddess. Whereas with other religions, if you look at it, the different gods and goddesses, you put those together, and that's like looking at the many personalities of one person, or many attributes to their personality. Anger, obsession, calculation, Athena, goddess of wisdom, to be wise. Ares, Ares or Eris? Ares, god of war. Violence, things like that. Eris, chaos. Aphrodite, love, seduction. These are different things you see within people. So you can say the same thing when it comes to religion. Different gods and goddesses versus one. The whole idea being in the embodiment of one deity versus several. It still points towards the same thing, and in the end, people still look at their own version of an afterlife, whether it be being reincarnated, being sent to heaven, or to a different realm, or just evaporating into nothing. What I believe in, and sorry to give this as an answer, is actually quite inconsequential. I've had this discussion with devout Catholics, devout Christians, Wiccans, pagans in general, a couple friends of mine that in part follow a little bit of the Buddhist faith, Muslims. Hell, I had an Episcopal priest come through my line when I was at a register working at Walmart. And even he and I had a wonderful conversation about it. And he and I were quite agreeable on many things. There were a few things where, we kind of changed the subject quickly because it made each other uncomfortable. Not a problem. Okay, number 8. How is your social life? Well, actually I'll broaden that out instead of since we moved, since high school. And with that I'll say since my class graduated instead of when I basically had to call it quits. Yeah, I retook the same class 4 times in a row and could not pass it. Algebra 2 escapes me, unfortunately. But, my social life is actually quite lacking. I don't really hang out with anybody. The last time I actually spent really any significant time was when I spent a week up at my cousin's house in October of 2013. Time before that was June or July of 2013. I haven't really gotten to hang out with anybody since. Once in a great while, Kenny or Dad will have somebody over, but I don't really hang out much. And for the most part, I've been okay with that. It gets a little bit lonely sometimes, not seeing or hearing from any of my friends, but hey, they work, they're in college, they've got their own thing going on, and, I've tried since middle school and high school to hang out with many of them, and with a few exceptions, mainly got put off, and I said, hell with it. They want to hang out, they'll come and talk to me. Some of my closest friends from high school. I see posts from them all the time about how, they're hanging out with so-and-so. Don't get asked once if I ever want to come and hang out. Okay, you don't want to hang out? Fine. I don't have a problem with it. If I'm not someone that you necessarily really want to hang out with but don't mind talking to and just being friends with like that, okay. I'm not going to force bond something with somebody when it comes to our friendship that is just going to make them kind of want to walk away. I try to be pretty open-minded and understanding when it comes to things like that. There are very few things that I'm closed-minded on, and when it comes to them, I'm very rigid, mostly. Okay, next question and the last. Is there anything or anyone you miss? And that's number 9. Yes and yes. Anything that I miss? I miss choir class from high school a lot. I started that in 8th grade. And it wasn't until my sophomore year in high school that I even learned to sight read. I listened to the teacher, the girls in my section, and sometimes guys, each other individual section, us as a whole, and myself, and I learned how to just go with it. Learned a few tricks, like if you, when singing, breathe in on I, E, and sometimes O, depending on the pitch of it. Your stagger breathing is quite unnoticeable. But, when it comes to being in a class, what would help is if there's certain people that are, told to focus on doing that, whereas other people pretty much need to focus on just doing it at random. That probably would have helped us out a lot, but I didn't really want to bring that up to a teacher. Student teaching the teacher when they don't know much about something to begin with isn't always looked very well upon. English class. the writing. And I know a lot of times, especially my senior year, I just completely said heck with it, and I goofed off. Sometimes I'd fall asleep, but there were some things I took quite seriously, and I took a lot of pride in. I remember one thing was, a project we did, finding a song that held meaning, and what personal meaning it meant to you, who sang it, and things like that. And a lot of kids picked pretty modern things. I picked "In Your Eyes" by Peter Gabriel, and to me, his lyrics spoke so much. In your eyes, the light, the heat are incomplete. That could say, whether or not there's something that a person is longing for. Maybe there's a hidden hatred or desire. Trevor, go lay down. Things like that. There's a lot with with different songs that you can take their meaning with when it comes to the lyrics. But I gave my take on it, and to me it meant so much. Peter Gabriel, Norah Jones, and several other artists are heroes for me in a very, very big way. Pink is another one. Jeffree Star with some things. The first song I knowingly heard from by him was, I think it was "You're Perfect" or just "Perfect" or something like that. "You're Perfect the Way You Are," I think. It was something one of my exes sent to me. I was rather down, and what she sent just, I don't know, it kind of touched me. And I actually, on my very first YouTube, did a video on it. We're singing to the song. I've done that a few times, and just like every account I have, you'll see at least one video where I sing to a song by the artist Pink. The edited version is "Effin' Perfect," and the original version is "Fucking Perfect." And I love that song so much. When I couldn't hear the music playing over the radio at work, so I was in an aisle that was too far away, that, Crystal Ball, and Split Personality were three of her songs that I knew enough by heart that just sang them. Not real loud, obviously, but enough to keep my mind paced. Choir and English both drew out a lot from my own inner darkness and emotions. So for me to say that I didn't miss them or didn't care for them in school would be total horseshit. I quite enjoyed the classes, actually, and relied on them. Was never a big fan of math, which is interesting because when I was, in first grade, I could do 6th grade level math, and my education was my rebellion against my parents, particularly my father, which ended up being my downfall. Had I just, had I just been, the child that I should have been and could have been, I might have been able to graduate on technically my sophomore or junior year in high school, or been doing college grade level work, to say the least. 6th grade level math in 1st grade, being able to understand it as my uncle was, having me work on it with him. That's, for me, that was a big thing. But lunch, for different reasons aside from eating, oftentimes would take my phone or iPod with me over to the multi-purpose room, which was the old gymnasium. I would plug in some music, find a basketball, and though I almost never made a hoop, I kept trying to make shots. And it was a good way to reduce stress, the motion of going like that. It's more like reaching up and either reaching for a goal or slapping somebody or punching somebody, having some anger focused behind something that you're putting force behind, focusing on a target, and it really helped and was quite relaxing despite it working you up a lot. So as far as things go, that's pretty much it. Any one that I miss? Oh God. Well, this is where I get to embarrass a few people as well as compliment them. There's actually quite a few people that I miss. Several of my teachers since grade school to now, or till graduation anyways, that I was quite fond of, that I miss. Mrs. Greenlee, Mrs. Asbell, Mrs. Golly, rest her soul, Mrs. Ames, Mrs. Gillespie, Mrs. Brackney, though I only had a B in your class for 1 out of the 4 9 weeks, which still amazes me. I don't know how I managed that. Oh, God. Mr. Huber. My 6th grade English teachers, which for some reason I cannot remember either of their names, which I still feel terrible about. Because it was, 3rd and 4th hour, 2 teachers doing the same class together, and was one of my favorite classes in 6th grade. Can't remember their names. I can't remember one of the others. Mrs. Faust was another one. There's one that starts with an H, and she was one of my 6th grade teachers, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I can't believe that I can't either. In high school, Miss French, she was quite a very helpful gym teacher. There were a lot of things that I found with just that class in general that were a little interesting. My view on things through her class. Teamwork, like with, softball and things like that, and when we'd play that a little bit, and just my attitude towards things. Swimming when McComish was in charge of that section, weightlifting, and how much I loved it. Channeled a lot, especially the one where you use your leg to push up against the deal, and there's weights that are stacked up, and just pushing that to the limit, because when I was in 8th grade, I wrecked on my dirt bike first hour and a half in. I was on crutches for 5 weeks, and I haven't been able to run right since. Once in a while, it feels like my knee catches on something, and it's a little bit of nerve issue because of my spine that I've noticed since I was a kid, which is starting to cause occipital neuralgia. We've already seen some of the warning signs of it, and some of the startup signs, have made things difficult. So to be able to push things like when I was running and like with swimming, it was amazing and a big comfort zone. Still can't do a chin-up, still can't do a pull-up. Nope. It took forever to be able to lift more than just the weight bar, but it finally got to where I could put 1 or 2 weights on it. Mr. Myers' class, Mr. Shimp's, Miss Beekman, even though I didn't have her class, I got to go over there a couple times during study hall. There were a lot of people, teacher-wise, that I miss. As far as students, the first two I'm going to embarrass the hell out of, and 1,000 pardons, please, because I am going to use your names, first and last. Kendra Green and Carter Lewis were two of the people that I will miss the most. Despite how we grew apart, whether quickly or slowly. See, when I was in daycare, I did not do well around kids at all. In fact, enough so that, because for whatever reason, I actually almost ended up getting hung. By the time the babysitter's assistant saw me, my face was turning blue because I was caught in a rope that had been tied to the top of a playset. And we'd been using that, put your arm and your head through, use it as a sling, climb back up the slide. Well, my arm fell out. Nobody knew what to do. So when I got to school, I was very, very scared. And, first and second grade, mainly second grade, I turned into a hellion and said, you know what, the hell with this. I'm going to hurt them before they hurt me, turned into a bitch. But kindergarten, I didn't know what to do. And I remember one day, we had free time, and Justin was using one of the fake hammers and was putting nails through boards that were already in, and just you couldn't make any progress with the fake hammers, but they were there. You just had to sit down. You could not stand so that you didn't fall on them. Oh God, imagine the trouble a teacher would have gotten on for that. And there was one of the tables were set up with memory. The game Memory laid out, which is where, you flip two cards, try and get them to match. And Carter and Kendra were sitting at the table, and I don't know if I asked if I could play or if they offered. And that was the first time I actually had a friendly interaction. And I've looked up to them despite everything since. And still do. I've known Carter's grandma since I was little, because my grandpa would take me to the VFW a lot, and I'm still good friends with her. And it's just, stuff like that. Cheyenne Parker, another great friend that, hang on a second, but I've never forgotten. Our little deal on, me and another friend we were basically trying to win Cheyenne's friendship over, against each other. Who could befriend her first. I was wanting to be her friend. She saw that. I saw that she wanted to be, and it was on. And we both ended up. And that, to a small degree, actually ended up bringing us a little bit closer again. Not much, but a little bit. And there's that. Ashley Miller. Oh my God. we used to argue all the time. Our 6th grade English teachers even pulled us aside one day when we couldn't go on it was like a Christmas Carol field trip thing, and they told us, you guys need to learn to get along, and brought up a recent school shooting a few towns away. Said, what if something like that happened here, and the last words you said to each other were horrible, and one person lived and the other didn't, and you'd never be able to take back what was said. You'd feel horrible. And I agree with them. I would have felt terrible. I would have felt absolutely terrible, actually. And one thing that kind of got me was she stood up for me quite often. And at the time, her view on it was, nobody picks on Izzy except for me. Um, so it was kind of one of those friendship love-hate things. And I mean, now when we chat, we just totally shoot the shit. We talk about things, we have fun. We haven't gotten to hang out since, but eventually we'll be able to. And the person who asked all these questions, Heaven, I have known you since 2nd grade, though you don't remember until 3rd. And I remember meeting you because of Mrs. Greenlee. And I understood what it was like to go through family problems at home quite consistently. And, not to bring this up, but I remember kids used to make fun of you a lot. Because, as little kids, we don't know how to deal with things. And I got tired of hearing kids making fun of you. I got sick and tired of it. Especially since I'd started to learn a little bit of what was going on. And I told him to leave you the hell alone and stop messing with you. I'm best friend since. I've known you been friends with you since 3rd grade. That was 2003 to 2004. Yeah. And, okay, so 2003, I've known you for 11 years and been friends with you. Known you for 12, been friends with you for 11. Going on being friends for 12 years. Doesn't feel like it, but damn, it has. Other people I'm gonna miss, Cassie, despite how much you moved and you and I bitching at each other about shit all the time. I don't need to say last name with that, you know who you are. Cheyenne Campbell. You helped me out a lot during high school. Thank you. You really were a good friend. Late middle school and clear through high school. I was very happy to be able to call you my friend and still am. All 3 of the Mason girls. Caitlin, Annalise, and Janelle. Since pretty much day 1, even though we didn't really talk much, and you guys were still some of the best friends I've ever had. Clear up until like my freshman or sophomore year in high school, not to bring up something that might be embarrassing. One thing that still sticks with me with Annalise was, I'd just gotten bullied, and it was, SSR time, Scholastic School Reading, I believe was what that stood for. And she handed me a note and said, don't listen to them, they don't understand, or something like that. I held on to that. And if I had a bad day at school, I'd look at that and say, well, at least one person gets it. And it helped. It really did. To see that at least somebody cared. Because a lot of the time, it's 5th grade even, I did not even want to go to school. I loved school, but I was tired of getting bullied. I'd make myself have an acid reflux trying to throw up from running so hard, so that I could basically get sent straight to the nurse so I could avoid having to stand in line and getting poked and hearing people say, Isabel germs poking somebody else. They did that to me and a couple of my friends, and it drove me nuts. It made me feel lower than dirt. I felt like a virus in the eyes of people, and it hurt. It really hurt. Janelle was another great friend, especially in grade school and into middle school and high school. We didn't talk as much, but still did some. And Caitlin, we really didn't become friends a whole lot until high school. It was like our sophomore, junior year, and bumped into each other in the hallway, and it was like, hey, we still go to the same school, hey, how you doing, kind of thing. And I don't know, never stopped going to school together, but it was like a total reconnect. It was kind of interesting. Falling in your sleep again. Allie. Actually, with her, I can say a group of people. Allie, Jasmine, Brianna Hicks. I'm forgetting a name, and it's gonna piss me off because this is someone else I wanted to bring up. You guys were pretty awesome. Some people from my freshman year that I actually was allowed to sit with, and I say allowed because I was terrified of asking. And sorry for me bringing you guys up. Please don't give me shit for this. If you want me to go back and edit and do a repost where I basically bleep out your names, I will. Joe Kaiser, I just talked to him a few days ago at the store. He's doing great. Steven, Clayton, Liz. Oh, I am so sorry for pissing you off. I knew her sister, and I saw some similarities in facial characteristics, and I kept asking, I know you somehow, and I finally asked, do you have a sister or something? She said yes, and she said the name. I was like, that's how I know you. And I by that point I had annoyed her so much from asking. I was terrified that she just hated my guts. Shit happens. And there were a few people from like grade school or from middle school and high school that I had insistent crushes on. And I'm going to spare you the embarrassment of me saying who you are. There were a few people who out and out asked, do you like so-and-so, or, would you ever date them if they said anything? And there were some where I fibbed and said no, and there were some where I said, hell yes, and there were some where the look on my face said it all. God, there's a few things I want to bring up on that would embarrass the hell out of me, make some people laugh, but it would also embarrass somebody else, and I don't dare put someone through that. No. That I will leave private. Yeah. One of the unresolved high school dilemmas that doesn't really ever go away is when you have a crush on someone for so long. It's like someone I'd had a crush on since first grade, and a prank was pulled on me in 7th grade. And, I was pissed, I was broken, and still don't hate the guy. Don't like him anymore like that. Hope to be able to call him a friend, if not now, one day. But don't hate him. Guys will be guys, kids will be kids. Whatever. But, yeah, as far as school goes, those are a lot of the people that I will miss. That's not even a third of them. But yeah, there are things and people I miss, and experiences that I miss. Like the first day of high school and that feeling of, the night before, can't sleep. What's high school gonna be like? Jazzed up, terrified, technically new school building, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna cut this short. She's starting to fuss. This is my answer to Heaven's Q&A questions. If anybody has any further, now that you see that I actually will answer them, all of them, and to the best of my ability, I hope to be able to do more of these for you. Have a wonderful day, evening, morning, what have you, and thank you.